If you had a chance to join us yesterday, you learned that this year's conference theme is Women in STEM, Inspiring the Next Innovation Wave. And this focuses on the essential role of women in STEM and what they bring to innovative solutions in today's most pressing hot topics and concerns. Women continue to be impacted by these concerns, yet remain underrepresented in the STEM fields, striving to solve these same challenges. And just to give you some data, with women representing less than 50% of STEM graduates, 28% of the industry's workforce, and 38% of female computer science majors work in tech. We know that the opportunity is clear. Bringing more women to STEM table will have a profound impact on changing our world. The agenda today will be inspiring stories that showcase tools women, their sponsors, and mentors can use to better protect and enable a platform for their STEM careers. So let's get things started with today's program. We're going to head on over to MetLife's global headquarters in New York, where the session is taking place in the historic MetLife boardroom, and hear from Robin Gordon, MetLife's Chief Analytics and Data Officer, to kick us off on day number 2. Robin, good morning.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for participating yesterday and for joining us again today. I'm so excited to be a part of this and was so inspired and excited about yesterday's agenda. I want to highlight, first of all, that this is the first time that we've done this hybrid type of setup. In 4 years, we started off with an all in-person session, then we went to virtual. And so this hybrid is sort of an experiment, and I was pleasantly surprised to see the energy and the connectivity that was occurring yesterday. I will give it out to Carrie that they were very, very energetic. We could hear them in New York and certainly over the virtual, and it was clear that we had some key star power in Carrie. So I think even though we are in this historic room, that is a little bit daunting just by the sheer magnitude of the room. I encourage us in New York to be a little bit more animated and put some competition to the Carrie group next to this week. But you know, part of that energy and enthusiasm that we saw yesterday was because of our partners. And I do want to just call out how important our partners have been in pulling this together and creating a community. We have 17 different companies represented here that have participated either by being speakers, being moderators, bringing attention to certain topics and stuff. And that's really important, because as important as it is for each of us to take ownership and responsibility for making change happen, it's equally important that we get the power and magnitude of a community. And a community doesn't just happen with one company, it happens with many. And so those 17 companies, I really thank you for your commitment to this and appreciate everything that you've done to make this conference and this topic so relevant and important. So thank you. We heard a lot yesterday, and I loved kind of the macro view that we got from Amy and others. And what I took away was it's super exciting stuff, but there's a lot of unsexy stuff that happens there too. And we heard multiple times that infrastructure is super important, and we've got to put money and fortitude and patience into infrastructure. I mean, when we heard about Jessica working with municipalities on infrastructure, do you know how arduous that work is? I mean, municipalities are difficult to work with. I mean, there's a ton of them. They're all very different. And to actually think about, like, she thinks about speed humps and how to create energy off of speed humps in towns. I mean, that's incredible. But she also talked about how she's just trying to organize their data so that they understand their business a little bit better. That's not super exciting, but it's super important. And then, of course, we heard some wonderful anecdotes about what we can do every single day to make a difference. I loved Hakeem, I think, took all the quotes for the day, certainly. The hope, hustle, and help. I loved his focus on, like, let's not create safe spaces where people can get away with doing bad stuff, right? That's really, really, really important. But also, some of the inspirational stuff that we heard from Keller and Jessica and Nicole. Loved the emphasis on Star Trek. I mean, I was just talking last night about we should have a Star Trek versus Wakanda action item afterwards, because it's really incredible to think that Star Trek had such an impact on people and brought them into the notion that they could do things different. And I love the idea that we have a program that's hopeful about our future and gives us a view of what it means to embrace diversity and be inclusive and be a community focused on big socioeconomic issues. So I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't spend a little bit of time focused on data. I've spent my entire career in data, so bear with me. And as hopeful and inspirational as yesterday and today are, I do want to ground us in the facts. I believe very firmly that we can't get to our destination if we don't know where we start. And where we're starting is not good. We have 28% of women represented in STEM. That started off 50 years ago as 8%. We've made 20% improvement in 50 years. That's not improvement. That's not progress. If we were a company, we'd all be out of jobs if that was our growth rate over 50 years. 4 out of 5 women attest to having impact in their career on gender problems, gender challenges, whether that's bias or discrimination or other things, pay inequity. 4 out of 5 women, that's not good. 22% of women are thinking about leaving STEM, not changing careers, leaving STEM altogether. What's going on in the environment that 22% of our women workforce want to leave? Equally, a quarter of the women in major milestones throughout their journey make the decision to opt out. That's a quarter of the schoolgirls, a quarter of the high school girls, a quarter of the college girls, a quarter of the entry-level girls, a quarter of the women in mid-career, and a quarter of the executives. Do you know what that looks like in terms of what we actually end up with in the pool? 14% of women executives left last year, in the last 12 months. I mean, this is not acceptable. This is not progress. And I loved what Pat said yesterday. She was gone for 15 years, and we did nothing. And it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be frustrated. We just got to anchor on this is the facts, and here's where we go from here. And it's not all based off of bias and discrimination. There's cultural aspects. There's economic and socioeconomic. I'm a testament to that, and I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I grew up in a large family of seven kids. My dad was an electrician. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And even though I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, I just wasn't exposed to a lot. My parents were busy trying to keep it all together, feed us, shelter us, and put clothes on our backs. So they weren't really exposing us to all of the possibilities that I had and my brothers and sisters had in managing our career. And so I grew up thinking I had 5 choices: doctor, nurse, teacher, fireman, policeman. Obviously, fireman, policeman was a little bit more oriented towards men, and I was an ambitious kid, so I said, I want to be a doctor. And I spent my entire childhood focused on wanting to be a doctor. I was a nurse's aide at a convalescent hospital through high school. I volunteered at my local emergency room. I would shadow and spend time interviewing doctors in different fields to understand where I wanted to go. And some wise person, before I entered college, said, you should just make absolutely certain that the doctor thing is what you really want to do. And they encouraged me to go and do just informational interviews with people. And I met a woman, and I'm going to highlight that it was important that she was a woman. And she was a software engineer. And she talked to me about how exciting her job was. Every day she went to work, she was solving puzzles. She was problem solving. She was using logic. And it just kept her mind going all the time. I thought, wow, that's really cool. Like, when I was a kid, I could do I can't do it now, but when I was a kid, I could do a Rubik's Cube in 30 seconds or less. I loved puzzles. And I thought, let me try this out. So I took a few courses. I had the aptitude for it. I loved it. And so I completely pivoted. And I've never looked back since. I've been in technology and data my entire career. I have a blast with it. Yes, I've had some challenges, but it's been wonderful. And I don't think that if it had been a man in that situation, as we heard yesterday, you've got to be able to see it to really understand that you can achieve it. I don't think I would be here. I'd probably, be asking people to say and, taking blood pressure and stuff, having fun doing it, but, a totally different journey for me. So I say all of this because I think today is going to be particularly important. We're going to hear stories not only about, again, what we can do and the action we can take individually, but also what we can do as a community. We've got a couple of really important speakers that are going to focus on what we can do, not just as a community of people coming together, but as employers. What it takes in a company to change and be different so that we create an inclusive environment that all people can thrive in. We're going to hear about the things that we could do in our macro environment to really make a difference. And of course, we have a lineup of star-studded speakers, Serena Williams being one of them, but many others too, Carla Harris, Ellen Poe. So I welcome you to stay, listen, and enjoy the day. Thank you so much.